There's a lot to get to tonight, including some really big developments in the many criminal investigations into Donald Trump. But I need to start with a question for today's Republican Party. What the hell's wrong with you? Today, House MAGA Republicans took an official party leadership-sanctioned field trip to visit the January 6th insurrectionists, who they call political prisoners.
This is just one step in, just exposing what's going on, making sure that we have the right information, and really listening to our constituents. We hear about the D.C. jail regularly when we go back home, and the American people are very concerned about some of the folks who are here. So we're listening to them, and we're here on their behalf.
Congresswoman Boebert, I hate to break it to you, but you don't have the right information if you think the American people want you to waste your energy on the violent insurrectionist mob. In fact, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know her, the ringleader of today's circus, heard that message loud and clear from one protester who obviously wasn't a fan of her stunt.
We have to work as hard as possible to defund the two-tiered injustice system, and we have to return freedom and due process rights to these pre-trial January 6th defendants. And as you can see, there's paid protesters here today, and they can whistle and say everything they want, but we will not be deterred. We do not care about them because they work for evil.
Happy to help him.
Now, for 2 years, we've heard the story from the people on the January 6th committee. We've heard the story about how it was an insurrection, and I'm going to tell you something right now. It was not an insurrection. What we have to do is we have to work as hard as possible to defund the two-tiered injustice system, and we have to return freedom and due process rights to these pre-trial January 6th defendants. Now, for 2 years, we've heard the story from the people on the January 6th committee. We've heard the story about how it was an insurrection, and I'm going to tell you something right now. It was not an insurrection. What we have to do is we have to work as hard as possible to defund the two-tiered injustice system, and we have to return freedom and due process rights to these pre-trial January 6th defendants.
Georgia Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has repeatedly portrayed the people accused of storming the Capitol on January 6th as political prisoners whose human rights are being violated. So today, 2 Democrats went along on her congressional field trip to see what's really going on inside that D.C. jail. One of those Democrats is Congressman Robert Garcia of California. Ahead of the trip, he wrote on Twitter that he was going, quote, on behalf of our House Oversight Committee and ranking member, Jamie Raskin, adding they, quote, won't let Marjorie Taylor Greene and the MAGA extremists tell lies about the insurrectionists and their attack on our democracy. Congressman Garcia joins me now. Welcome, Congressman. Good to see you. So what did you see? What did you hear? What were those conditions like for those prisoners?
I mean, first, I think the truth is that Marjorie Taylor Greene is completely lying about the trip. Obviously, they had an intention of making it a circus. This is a very serious issue. At the end of the day, these are insurrectionists. These are people that attacked our Capitol, that try to overturn an election, that cause real harm to people. I mean, there are police officers, dozens and dozens that have been seriously injured. We lost a life. And so this idea that this was not an insurrection is a complete lie and fabrication. So we were there today on behalf of the Oversight Committee. What we saw was conditions that were fair. They have an open area to congregate. They're able to be outside their cells most of the time. We saw 20 insurrectionists there that have access to tablets and laptops and communication with their families. And so this idea that they're somehow being persecuted or in somehow terrible conditions is just not true. And so at the end of the day, what's really shameful is that when these insurrectionists were brought to us, when we were in the same area with them, the Republicans rushed to them and treated them like celebrities. So it's really shameful what they're doing, and they're continuing to tell lies.
You earlier today tweeted the actions of our Republican colleagues inside the facility and their lies about the visit are shameful, as you just noted. Can you tell us a little about those actions? What were they saying? What were they doing to really embarrass themselves, if you will?
Right. I mean, we saw the whole DC jail, different parts of the jail. They were set up in the area of the jail that was the newest, that was the most open. The leaders in the jail provided us with great information. I talked to the chief medical officer. These January 6 insurrectionists, the inmates, they have access to medical care 24 hours a day. They're well taken care of. When we were brought into the section that housed the 20 folks, and 17 of the 20, by the way, attacked Capitol police officers. They attacked law enforcement. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, they all rushed these folks. They patted them on the back. It was like they were greeting heroes. So it was honestly really disgusting to see the way they treated people that tried to overturn our democracy, and then to go outside, host a press conference, and say that no insurrection actually happened, and that these folks are in some sort of two-tier justice system is just completely false. I have been to other jails. I know how oftentimes the jail system treats Black and brown folks, especially in very difficult conditions. That was not the case today. And so they should really be ashamed of themselves.
Congressman, did they offer, just picking up on what you were just saying about how they were treating these individuals in the jail, did they offer these insurrectionists any comfort beyond the political platitudes, but we're here to help you. We want to put you in touch with this person or that person. How did they fashion that conversation that they were having directly with those insurrectionists?
Well, I mean, it was stunning. I mean, we were probably in the same room with these insurrectionists for probably about 30 minutes. It was an open area. I mean, there was interaction. This wasn't behind bars. We were all in the same space. And of course, the Republicans that were there were engaging with them. They were writing notes. They were telling stories. They were patting them on the back. And so it was really hard to see. And I mean, these are people that tried to overthrow our government. And you have members of Congress that are there to uphold our Constitution and protect our country, treating them like heroes and essentially celebrities. And so it was very clear to us, me and my colleague who were both there on the Democratic side, that this was a circus, meant to get headlines, to have another press conference. And what I will say is the staff there, the medical team, the nurses that we met, they're doing everything they can to provide a sense of justice and decorum for all. They want to ensure that there's a process, and they are being treated fairly. And so this idea that they're not is just incorrect.
Congressman, before I let you go, we got a little less than a minute left. I want to ask you, what were your interactions with these prisoners? How did you approach them, speak with them, and give us a sense of how that went?
Well, when we were there, some of them did come up to myself and to Representative Crockett, the other Democrat. They tried to talk to us, tell us some stories, and a lot of it, quite frankly, was hard to listen to. I mean, they were spouting conspiracy theories, talking about Donald Trump, saying all sorts of crazy things. For me, it was about observing, making sure that we were getting all the information from the staff there, the medical team, while ensuring that the Republicans wouldn't tell lies, and we're able now to be very blunt and say that they were. And at the end of the day, the Republicans were there to create another press opportunity for themselves. And Marjorie Taylor Greene was surrounded by the January 6 inmates telling stories, acting like she was their main advocate. And so that was difficult to see, but I'm glad that we were there. I'm glad that our committee asked us to be there so we can push back on the lies that they're telling every single day.
Congressman Robert Garcia, thank you for your inside perspective of that visit. Thank you very much.
We have to work as hard as possible to defund the two-tiered injustice system, and we have to return freedom and due process rights to these pre-trial January 6 defendants. And as you can see, there's paid protesters here today, and they can whistle and say everything they want, but we will not be deterred. We do not care about them because they work for evil.